The teenage daughter of Galactic Consul Jordan Henry lay dead, her body ravaged by a Tarkalian disruptor rifle, the first human casualty in the aliens' secret war against Earth. Jordan's hands trembled with rage and grief as he viewed the classified security footage for the 10th time. His daughter Samantha, bright and innocent, cut down in a hail of plasma fire during a routine school field trip. The Tarkalian commander, Ren, claimed it was an accident, a case of mistaken identity during a security sweep. But the chilling precision of the ambush and the advanced weaponry used told a different story. This was no accident. It was a deliberate act of aggression, a message written in his daughter's blood. The Tarkalians had finally crossed the line, and now there would be hell to pay. Jordan had seen the signs for years. The Tarkalians' growing hostility towards humanity, the mysterious disappearances of human ships near their borders, the constant diplomatic slights and provocations. He had warned the Earth Council time and again, but they dismissed his concerns as paranoia, too focused on maintaining the fragile peace. But now the calculus had changed. His daughter was dead, murdered in cold blood, and the Tarkalians thought they could get away with it. They thought the title of Galactic Consul would make Jordan meek and pliable, that he would put politics above the life of his own flesh and blood. They were wrong. Beneath the veneer of the diplomat beat the heart of a soldier, a father, a man who had stared into the abyss of war and never blinked. Jordan would have his vengeance, even if he had to tear the galaxy apart to get it. He activated his comlink, encrypted channels only. "This is Consul Henry. I want every scrap of intel we have on Tarkalian military operations for the past 5 years. Personnel rosters, ship logs, armament specs, everything. I don't care how classified it is." There was a pause, then a voice replied, "Understood, sir, but may I ask why?" "Call it a hobby," Jordan said grimly. "And one more thing. Get me in touch with Commander Ren of the Tarkalian battlecruiser Vanquish. It's time he and I had a little chat, a very pointed chat." As he cut the link, Jordan stared out at the stars, cold and merciless. Somewhere out there, a killer was laughing. But not for long. The Tarkalians had sown the wind, and now they would reap the whirlwind. And if the galaxy burned in the process, so be it. Some prices were worth paying, and some sins could never be forgiven. The aliens had killed his little girl. Now they would learn the wrath of a father with nothing left to lose. Jordan's eyes burned as he pored over the classified files, the glow of the holo display casting his face in stark shadows. With each swipe of his hand, another piece of the puzzle fell into place. The weapon that killed Samantha wasn't just any Tarkalian rifle. It was an experimental directed energy weapon designed to target human brainwave patterns. Every detail in the reports pointed to one chilling conclusion. His daughter's death was no accident, but a deliberate act of war. His hands clenched into fists as he reached out to his old contacts in military intelligence. Cashing in every favor he'd earned over his long career, Jordan dug deeper. Whispers reached him of a secret Tarkalian research facility on their colony world Zekra Prime. Horror stories of human test subjects, of prisoners experimented on like lab rats. The Tarkalians had crossed a line from which there could be no return. Jordan had to see the truth for himself. Under the pretext of a diplomatic mission to ease tensions, he booked passage to Zekra Prime. But as he stepped off the shuttle onto the alien soil, he found Commander Ren waiting for him with a squadron of heavily armed guards. "Consul Henry," Ren said, his voice dripping with false cordiality, "we are honored by your visit. I trust you'll find your stay enlightening." Jordan met Ren's gaze, seeing the challenge in the Tarkalian's eyes. The commander knew something was amiss. Jordan would have to play this carefully. "Commander Ren, I'm sure I will." As the Tarkalian security detail closed in around him, Jordan began to plan. He had to find a way to slip his leash and infiltrate that facility. For his daughter, for all the victims of the Tarkalians' cruelty, he would uncover the truth, or die trying. The research base loomed before him, a twisted spire of alien metal jutting from the jungle like a dagger. Jordan crept through the shadows, his heart pounding. It had taken every ounce of his skill and cunning to give his escorts the slip, but he knew it would only be a matter of time before they discovered his absence. The locks on the facility doors were no match for his diplomatic override codes. As the blast doors groaned open, Jordan steeled himself for what horrors might lie within. He found them. Banks of stasis pods lined the walls, each one containing a human floating in bubbling green fluid. Their faces were twisted in agony, their bodies pocked with scars. Jordan fought down a surge of nausea. The Tarkalians hadn't just been experimenting on humans, they'd been vivisecting them. He was so focused on the grim tableau that he didn't hear the footsteps behind him until it was too late. Pain exploded in the back of his skull and he crumpled to the floor. Through blurred vision, he saw Ren standing over him, flanked by a dozen Tarkalian soldiers. "Did you really think you could sneak in here undetected?" Ren sneered. "Your clumsy attempts at subterfuge were obvious from the start, and now, Consul, you'll pay the price for your espionage." As the guards hauled him up and locked his wrists in energy cuffs, Jordan caught a glimpse of Ren's men destroying the evidence. The stasis pods were blown apart by plasma charges, the bodies of the test subjects incinerated until nothing remained but ash. "The Galactic Council will hear of this," Jordan spat, straining against his bonds. "You can't hide your crimes forever." Ren laughed, a cold and ugly sound. "The Council will hear only what we want them to hear. With you as our prisoner, Earth will have no choice but to bend to our demands. Your diplomatic immunity means nothing here." The guards dragged Jordan away, down into the bowels of the facility. But as they pulled him into the shadows, his fingers brushed the transmitter hidden in his sleeve. With a few taps, he sent a burst of data racing across the stars, a desperate plea to anyone who would listen. It was out of his hands now. As the cell doors slammed shut, leaving him in darkness, Jordan could only hope that his message had gotten through. The truth was out there, and one way or another, it would be heard. In the depths of interstellar space, a nameless ship drifted. Aboard, a figure draped in shadow intercepted a strange transmission from the Tarkalian colony. A slow smile spread across their hidden face as they read the contents. The human consul's discoveries could be the spark that ignited the powder keg. With a few keystrokes, they forwarded the data to certain interested parties. The Galactic Council would be in an uproar. Old accusations would resurface, suspicions reignited. And in the chaos, opportunity. As the ship slipped away into the void, a chessboard appeared on the figure's hollow display. The White King stood alone, surrounded by black pawns. A slender finger reached out and toppled the king. "And so it begins," the figure murmured. "Let slip the dogs of war." Jordan Henry's head throbbed as he regained consciousness in his cell. The sterile white walls of the Tarkalian detention facility on Zekra Prime seemed to close in around him. He tested his restraints. No give. Commander Ren had made sure of that. "Rise and shine, Consul." Ren's voice crackled over the intercom. "Ready for another productive session?" Jordan spat blood onto the floor. "Go to hell!" The door hissed open and Ren strode in, flanked by two guards. Now, is that any way to speak to your gracious host? You know, your people are quite worried about you. Perhaps if you cooperate, we can arrange a call home." "My diplomatic status has been revoked," Ren cut him off. "You're just another prisoner now, one who knows far too much for his own good." The guards roughly hauled Jordan to his feet. He stumbled as they half-dragged him down the corridor to the interrogation chamber. Inside, a Tarkalian in a lab coat waited next to a chair filled with wires and electrodes. Jordan's stomach lurched. "Last chance, Consul," Ren said. "Tell us what you know about Earth's military preparations and we can avoid all this unpleasantness." Jordan met the commander's gaze defiantly. "I've got nothing to say to you." Ren sighed. "Very well, Doctor. Proceed with the mind probe." The next hours passed in a haze of agony as the Tarkalians bombarded Jordan's mind with invasive psychic energy. He retreated deep into his psyche, focusing on happy memories of Samantha to steel himself against the assault. Finally, mercifully, it ended. Jordan sagged in the chair, spent but unbroken. Ren loomed over him. Impressive mental fortitude, Consul, but we have all the time in the world. You will break eventually. As the guards dragged him back to his cell, Jordan's fingers brushed against the transmitter hidden in his sleeve. A faint smile touched his lips. Help was coming. He just had to hold out a little longer. On Earth, alarms blared in a top-secret military bunker. General Hawthorne burst into the Situation Room, aides scrambling in her wake. "Status report," she barked. A young lieutenant snapped to attention. "Ma'am, we've received an encrypted distress signal from Consul Henry. He's alive, but being held on Zekra Prime." Hawthorne's eyes narrowed. "Those Tarkalian bastards. Looks like Jordan was right about them all along. Lieutenant, assemble Strike Team Alpha. We're mounting a rescue op." "Yes, ma'am." Within hours, Earth's most elite Special Forces unit was gearing up in the hangar bay. Captain Jin checked his team's equipment one last time. Prototype phase rifles, stealth suits, and neural scramblers designed to counteract Tarkalian tech. "Listen up," Jin addressed his squad. "This is a black op deep in enemy territory. Our job is to extract the Consul and secure any intel on Tarkalian weapons research. Failure is not an option. Earth is counting on us." The strike team boarded their stealth ship, primed for the most daring mission of their lives. Across the galaxy, shadowy figures worked to fan the flames of conflict. Carefully selected bits of Jordan's intel found their way to key members of the Galactic Council. "This is an outrage," the Centauri ambassador thundered, smacking his palm on the table. "The Tarkalians must answer for these atrocities." "Lies and slander," the Tarkalian representative shot back. "This is nothing but human propaganda." As accusations flew, military forces on both sides began to mobilize. The mysterious third party watched with satisfaction as their careful manipulations bore fruit. Soon, the galaxy would be engulfed in war, and they would reap the profits. Jordan Henry had no way of knowing the chaos his captured intel had unleashed. In his cell on Zekra Prime, he focused on survival and escape. The transmission from Jordan's hidden device raced across the stars, igniting a firestorm. Within hours, the Galactic Council chambers erupted into chaos as the evidence of Tarkalian atrocities spread like wildfire. "This cannot stand," thundered the Centauri ambassador, banging his hand on the podium. "The Tarkalians must answer for these crimes." But even as accusations flew, warships were already on the move. The first shots of open conflict blazed across the void between Tarkalian and human colonies. On Earth, General Hawthorne strode into an emergency war council, her face grim. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are at war. The Tarkalians have struck our outer colonies. We must respond with overwhelming force." Jordan Henry, freshly escaped from Zekra Prime, sat at the head of the table. His time as a prisoner had left him gaunt and haunted, but there was steel in his eyes. "I've seen firsthand what the Tarkalians are capable of," he said, his voice hoarse but steady. "We can't afford to pull our punches. I propose an immediate offensive to cripple their supply lines while we marshal our main fleet." The council murmured in agreement. Within hours, Jordan found himself promoted to Supreme Commander of Earth's military forces. His first act was to dispatch elite scout teams armed with the intel he'd stolen from Zekra Prime. Captain Jin led the vanguard, his stealth ship slipping past Tarkalian patrols to strike at a vital fueling depot. "All units, go dark," Jin whispered into his comm as they approached the target. "We hit hard and fast, no survivors." The human commandos struck like ghosts, planting antimatter charges on key structures before vanishing into the night. As they pulled away, the depot erupted in a silent blossom of destruction. Similar strikes played out across a dozen systems, sowing chaos in the Tarkalian war machine. But the aliens were quick to respond. On the Tarkalian capital world, Commander Ren paced before a holo display showing human fleet movements. "They seek to strangle us," he snarled. "We will show them the meaning of total war. Commence Operation Firestorm. Tarkalian warships descended on human outer colonies, their weapons blazing. Civilian centers were reduced to ash and rubble as the aliens sought to break humanity's will to fight. The conflict escalated rapidly, drawing in neutral systems. Jordan found himself thrust into the role of diplomat as well as general, racing from world to world to shore up alliances. "The Tarkalians will come for you next," he warned the Rigelian Confederation. "Stand with Earth now, and we can end this threat together." But for every world that joined the human cause, another threw in their lot with the Tarkalians. The galaxy fractured along lines of fear and opportunity. 2 months of bitter fighting bled into 3. Jordan, haggard from sleepless nights, received word of a Tarkalian prison camp housing thousands of human captives. He knew he had to act. "This is a go-no-go call," he told his strike team aboard the stealth carrier Nemesis. "Intel suggests heavy defenses, but our people are suffering in there. I'm leading this one personally." The human troops hit the camp like a thunderbolt, breaching the perimeter and fighting their way to the cell blocks. Jordan's heart clenched as he saw the state of the prisoners, emaciated, brutalized, but still alive. "We're getting you out of here," he promised, helping a woman to her feet. "Just hold on a little longer." But as the last of the captives were being loaded onto the transports, alarms blared. Tarkalian reinforcements had arrived, led by Commander Wren himself. "You've fallen into my trap, Henry." Wren's voice boomed across the battlefield. "Surrender now, and perhaps I'll spare your troops." Jordan's mind raced. There was only one way to ensure the prisoner's escape. He grabbed a comm unit. "This is Commander Henry. I'm surrendering myself as a hostage. All units, fall back to the extraction point. That's an order." Ignoring the protests of his soldiers, Jordan strode out to meet Wren, hands raised. The Tarkalian ships ceased fire, allowing the human transports to slip away. "A noble sacrifice," Wren sneered as Jordan was brought aboard his command ship. "But futile." Jordan allowed himself a grim smile. "We'll see about that." As soon as he was alone, Jordan activated the virus he'd implanted in his neural implants. Tarkalian systems across the ship began to fail as the virus spread. In the confusion, Jordan's extraction team struck. Led by Captain Jin, they fought their way through the crippled vessel, retrieving their commander in a hail of gunfire. "I knew you'd come back for me," Jordan said as they raced for their shuttle. "Wouldn't miss it, sir," Jin replied with a fierce grin. The human vessel barely escaped as Wren's ship exploded behind them. But even as Jordan's heroics were celebrated across human space, the war took an even darker turn. Reports came in of entire human colonies reduced to lifeless husks, their populations wiped out by some new Tarkalian weapon. The experimental bioweapons Jordan had discovered on Zekra Prime were now a terrifying reality. As casualty reports mounted, Jordan stared out at the stars, his face etched with grim persistence. The war had entered a new phase, and there would be no easy victory, but he would see it through, regardless of the cost. Jordan Henry's eyes narrowed as he studied the holographic display. The intel was clear. Chimaria 4 housed a revived Tarkalian bioweapons program. His fists clenched at his sides. "We end this now," he growled to his assembled officers. "Prep the fleet for immediate departure." Within hours, a vast armada of human warships dropped out of hyperspace above Chimaria 4. The planet's orbital defenses lit up, and Tarkalian ships rose to meet them. Jordan stood on the bridge of his flagship as energy beams lanced between the opposing fleets. Explosions flared silently in the void. "Ground teams, deploy!" he barked into the comm. Jordan led the first wave of dropships, their hulls glowing as they plunged through the atmosphere. Anti-aircraft fire erupted around them. The dropship next to Jordan's exploded in a fireball. They touched down hard amidst the prefab structures of the mining colony. Jordan's boots hit the ground as he charged out, phase rifle at the ready. "Push to the main complex," he shouted over the din of battle. Tarkalian defenders poured from fortified positions. Jordan's troops advanced under heavy fire, using the terrain for cover. A Marine next to Jordan caught a plasma bolt to the chest and went down. They fought their way through the streets, Jordan's force growing smaller with each encounter. Finally, they reached the blast doors of the Central Research Facility. "Breaching charges!" Jordan called out. The doors blew inward with a thunderous boom. Jordan led the charge into the smoke-filled corridor beyond. They battled room by room through the complex. In a vast laboratory, Jordan stopped cold. Mutilated human corpses lay on exam tables, their flesh warped by hideous mutations. He fought down the urge to vomit. A familiar voice echoed from speakers overhead. "Welcome, Consul Henry. You're just in time for the grand finale." Jordan spun to see Commander Wren on a catwalk above, standing before a bank of controls. A massive view screen showed a missile ready to launch. "One push of this button," Wren gloated, "and your pitiful species is eradicated from this sector." With a roar of fury, Jordan charged up the stairs. Wren met him with a savage punch. They grappled furiously, trading blows. Jordan's remaining troops worked frantically at computer terminals. "Sir, we're overloading the reactor," one shouted. "But we can't stop the launch sequence." As Jordan slammed Wren against a railing, his gaze fell on a nearby examination table. The withered remains wore a necklace he recognized instantly. "Sarah?" he whispered in horror. The momentary distraction cost him as Wren landed a crushing blow. Jordan stumbled back, his vision swimming. But as he saw his daughter's corpse, something snapped inside him. With an inarticulate howl of rage and anguish, Jordan hurled himself at Wren. His fists became pistons, pummeling the Tarkalian's face. Suddenly, the facility rocked with explosions. Automated turrets emerged from hidden panels, firing indiscriminately. "Sir," a Marine called out, "unknown forces have seized control of the defense grid." Jordan looked from the launch controls to the reactor core, its warning lights flashing red. In that moment, he knew what had to be done. He staggered to the main console, fingers flying across the keys. "This is Supreme Commander Jordan Henry," he spoke into the facility's communications array. "To all forces, withdraw immediately." Wren laughed weakly, blood bubbling from his lips. "It's too late, human. We both die here." Jordan yanked him up by the collar. "Not before you confess your crimes." He activated the video feed, broadcasting on all frequencies. As Wren spilled the sordid details of Tarkalian atrocities, Jordan worked to overload the reactor core. The chamber began to shake violently. With seconds left, Jordan addressed the camera one final time. "To Earth, to all of humanity, I'm sorry it came to this, but the threat ends here." The video feed cut to static as blinding light consumed the facility. In orbit above, human and Tarkalian ships alike reeled from the massive detonation on the planet's surface. In the stunned aftermath, Jordan Henry's last message echoed across the stars, a final, damning testimony that would forever change the course of galactic history.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.